EastEnders is like a revolving door of continued recasts and new characters. But sometimes the favourites you love end up getting the shaft, or end up just leaving to sometimes deserved exits, and sometimes some very unexpected get fucked kind of exits. I'm thinking of Peter Beale in his last exit, where he suddenly went, actually Bobby, fuck you, actually Nan, fuck you, I'm leaving, Dana, cheers for the shag love, but this ain't enough for me. And so today we're going to be talking, I've got around 10 characters from EastEnders past, and we're going to discuss who we'd want to return. Some kind of caveat, it's not going to be characters from the dead as such. There may be one or two in there, but fundamentally it's just about the characters that we'd love to see back on our screens, especially after suddenly Cindy Beale's being brought back from the dead started the cogs turn and started them thinking. How's it going, Piggy? How do you find, like, how many characters do you miss on a daily basis?
I'm not prepared for this. Bring back the characters. That's it.
Alright. Well, and I suppose these aren't going to be in any particular order. These are just a list of the characters that I'd love to see back. We're going to kick it off with a bang. Going to kick it off with Grant Mitchell. Obviously, Grant is now... he's fairly far removed. The last time he was on the soap was in 2015, and even that stint wasn't for very long. 16?
Yes.
Obviously, he came back for... yeah, 2016. He came back for... first time he went to... had a return 2005 to help out Sam. They then fought Johnny Allen. And then in 2016, obviously when Peggy departed the show, he came back to help out then as well. But it feels like it's been a little bit too long without a Mitchell. And we're not just bringing back Grant Mitchell, we're bringing Courtney Mitchell and Mark Fowler Jr., two new characters to bolster the kind of diminishing family that is the Mitchells. As Grant is somewhat a pillar of stability for the Mitchells. He's a very, strong character and kind of doesn't take any shit. And I feel like this edition would allow Phil to actually kind of get back to some of his form, realise what his priorities are, and maybe actually work a little bit harder to, as right now, it feels like Phil's heading for retirement. So, and obviously bring in Courtney and Mark Fowler Jr. It's just, there's an issue with EastEnders for killing off characters that makes the families really, really small. And EastEnders is all about family. It's been a part of the mantra the entire time. It was a big part of when it was initially introduced. And how many Mitchells are there currently on the show? Ben, Phil, Billy. And that's about it, really. That's how light the Mitchells are on the square. And they need firepower. And that's why you bring in Courtney and Mark to, at least, even if Grant only returns for a short period of time, at least Courtney and Mark Fowler can stay. And that means you've got a bit more character, and you've got the people who are going to do the memorable storylines. You've got people to cause drama with. You've got people to get into relationships with. You've got history to make with two fresh faces. And that's why we're going to bring Grant Mitchell back to the square.
I don't know if he had an interaction with Mick Carter, but if somehow Mick Carter is alive,
which he
and
is,
he's back at the time Grant comes back, oh, give me a hard on. Give me Grant Mitchell and Mick Carter just going, oh, I'm fucking Will Harney. Fuck you, I'm well hard, you bollocks, you cow, you slut. You're like, oh no. Even if I can't get that back, just let Danny Dyer meet Ross Kemp in real life.
Would be funny, like, wouldn't it? I suppose next up, a slightly less, I think it's a character people liked, but I don't think anybody particularly loved. It's going to be Bex Fowler. Obviously, Martin and Sonia's kid that they didn't realise they were having till it happened. And at the last time she left, she had lost the will to live. And that's not just a turn of phrase. She did genuinely try to off herself and then kind of realised that maybe life's worth living, and now she's off travelling. I think last known she was in Thailand. So...
Oh, seen the lady boys? Oh, I'd love to see a lady boy.
Tremendous. Obviously, Bex was fairly underutilized when she was on the show. Because beyond her initial storyline with the Shaki, obviously Kush's... Is it Kush's brother? But obviously Carmel's son. You know, between that, like, teen relationship where you just kind of had the, like, Martin's just angry all the time. Like, how dare you mess with my daughter? You know, start chasing him around, started just shouting at him a lot. Beyond that, she didn't really get to do much. She developed this weird kind of creepy love for Kush because he reminded her of Shaki. It was, she didn't necessarily get the best writing on the show, I'll say that much. And that's why we should bring her back with not with a fresh face. Obviously, you have to bring back the actress. And just start allowing her to live a little bit more normally. Start her having fun. Start her actually having friendships. And maybe not just have her there only to not use her whatsoever. Yeah, that's my case of bringing Bex Fowler back. Any thoughts, Big?
Love Bex Fowler from when I would flip on the channels. Quite enjoyed her acting. One of the better female actresses on the show, or was on the show.
Yeah.
No offense to any EastEnders actor watching this or actress,
but you shit.
Yeah, like Billy Mitchell. Oh, you actually cry when Lola died? You can't.
I mean, he will.
But anyways, he did. This is coming out after Lola died.
Oh.
Shh. Unless this goes out the day Lola dies, then
probably will.
Damn it. Check out our live stream, or even our VOD. Anyways, Bex. Sorry, Bex. I know this is supposed to be about you, but I'm making it about me. You bitch. You're a lovely character, Bex. I wouldn't mind you coming back. She should have came back for Dot's funeral. I understand she didn't, because they had the Bex Fowler 2.0 in Dotty Cotton. Dotty. Bitch, please don't bring her back. She was an asshole. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it if they'd actually given Dotty much character, but they didn't. They really did not. They just made her evil bitch, which is not really the ideal, and they did nothing with her.
Bully Reese. Thankfully, she didn't bully Reese.
But yeah, that's my pitch for Bex to come back to the square. One thing I'll loop in a lot. I'll loop in. I would loop in if we bring back any of the Masouds. Obviously, you would bring back Habiba and Ikra, but you know, they are both casualties of the time, as they both got one storyline and never really did again. So that's another case. We can't really make a good case for these characters, as if they only got the one thing to do, what's the fucking point? But that'll segue into our next character, which is Ruby Allen. Last scene.
Was she the one who shagged Martin?
Yes. Last scene, she was leaving a cab and she was pregnant with Martin's child after a very strained, conceiving. Like they lost a child and it really took a toll on both of them. Meanwhile, she was also trying to fend off Stacy, getting her locked up, and kind of got a little bit mental with it. Obviously, Ruby was an interesting character because they brought her back in the rape storyline, because obviously Ruby was Stacy's mate that she hadn't seen in years, and she came back in 2018 and proceeded to get just raped, and it was awful. But there was a really good story where in front of the pub she just went, yes, this happened, and it was a great episode. But then she kind of fizzled out a little bit more. After the trial, she got into a relationship with Jay, which was kind of fun in a way, where Ruby kind of started to gain a bit more confidence. But then she started dating Max, which was also at one of Max's probably worst times in the square, as he was just there. She then convinced she broke up with Max because she decided that Martin was the one, and then they had an amazing kiss, and I replayed that moment many times. Got married, then Stacy got involved, and then she departed. And yeah, it's kind of scary to see if she'll actually come back. So obviously she sold rubies to she sold rubies, which is now Peggy's, obviously. And she doesn't really have that many roots within the square. Obviously her only real ties are Stacy and Martin at this point. But I could definitely see her coming back with a little sprog, ready to... I'll just say that at some point Martin and Stacy get back together. Ruby turns up and goes, wow, isn't this cute? And with Martin's child. What do you reckon, Piggy? Do we want Ruby back?
Ruby, so home. Ruby, so home. I wouldn't mind her coming back. Do I see her? I can see the actress coming back when she runs out of the ching ching bling bling. But like most actors, they go, I fucking hate doing EastEnders, and then oh, I'm losing all my money. Can you please bring me back? I'm losing all my money. Please bring me back.
I think
I've been so annoyed.
I think once she obviously got married, obviously the actress, and I think she was starting a family of her own, so she wanted to at least start a bit of a family, get that going. But I think, because obviously Ruby Allen is the in story the daughter of gangster Johnny Allen. She's minted. She has a shit ton of money, and she also has a fairly strong personality. And I think it would shake up, and it would be good to have a lot more strong woman on the square, because, well, especially a strong rich woman on the square, just kind of put some people in their place. Would be interesting to go into the kind of crime background of the character, but also she was never really characterized as that. She was just characterized as, yeah, I'm fucking minted because my dad left me a shit ton of money. But I would love to see her back, because when given the chance, she was tremendous at what she did, and I disliked how they needed to bring Stacy back, so they just fucked Ruby out of the way. It's not really my ideal situation. The next one is slightly more controversial, but I don't think anybody will really care. I said, admittedly, maybe you don't bring people back from the dead, but if it is Ronnie and Roxy, we'll start to make some, I don't know the word, but we'll let it happen. I think everybody would just about go, we did see Ronnie die, and we did see them both technically die, but they're just far too good to decide that they aren't, like, they're far too good to avoid otherwise. What do you reckon, Piggy? Ronnie and Roxy back on the square immediately.
You see, you know, like, obviously we're wrestling fans, so I'm going to give it like this. You know, like when you want your favourite wrestler back, so they bring them back and then bury them.
Yeah. I suppose
So
just to even take away some of the wrestling thing, essentially bring them back and just punish them for leaving, essentially.
Yeah.
I think, once again, obviously, my complaint about the families being really weak on EastEnders is, I'd say it's still fairly apt. But I also just, there's been multiple times when they've tried to bring back a duo that has tried to, like, replace the Ronnie and Roxy style. Obviously, they I'm pretty sure they brought in, like, I think it's Jodie and Poppy. They were kind of a duo. And yeah, you know, at each time they have the same makeup, where it's like, one's the slightly smarter one and one's the dumb one who likes to sleep with people. Obviously not that crass, but they've never been able to replicate it, and it feels like if they basically, whoever was the executive producer after Roxy and Ronnie were killed probably went, what the fuck, why would you do that? Two of the more iconic characters of, like, the recent era. So like, it's just kind of like, why? These are the characters that grow old and are still a good duo together. Obviously, both characters kind of struggled a lot with storylines, mostly because they didn't really know what to do with Ronnie once she'd settled down a little bit more. I say Ronnie, I meant Roxy in that situation. They didn't know what to do with Roxy. She was always kind of, like, in love with the wrong people, and they weren't the best for her. But it would have been interesting to see them explore her slowly becoming a good mum, even if there would be a lot of time where she'd mess up and she'd struggle. And then with Ronnie, she kind of got the same trauma treatment that Whitney started to get. And that did really annoy a lot of people about the character. But, like I said, if this was 2019 and they said, let's bring Ronnie and Roxy back, I'd say, fuck off. We're not doing that. Not now. You guys aren't capable of doing this well. But in the current day, at this point in time, I'd do it. Because it would be a lot of energy, it would be a lot of boost, and a lot of people would come back to see Ronnie and Roxy if they were actually there. Like, you don't have Peggy. You don't have Pat. You don't have you don't have Dot anymore. You don't have many of these big, like, cultural EastEnders icons. And Ronnie and Roxy would just fit the bill. And it's a shame that it's going to sound really negative, but it's a shame that Cindy's being brought back from the dead, because it just means that someone else being brought back from the dead so soon, probably quite unlikely, considering they've only really done one a year. Obviously, Den was brought back in 2005. Kathy was brought back in like 2015, that kind of period.
Den was brought back in 2003.
Exactly. And this decade will seemingly be the return of Cindy Beale, who is not on our list, and is not top on the list of people you'd bring back from the dead. So, bring back Ronnie and Roxy. People will complain because it's not realistic enough, but it's EastEnders, and I think we're truly missing something that hasn't been found again with the absence of Ronnie and Roxy. But let's...
No, wait, which one was brought back in just last month?
Roxy.
Yeah. I can imagine the co-writer being like, you guys want Roxy and Ronnie back? Well, fuck you, he brought Roxy back and no one wanted her. So fuck you, she was brought back one episode. So fuck you, you're not getting it. Fuck you, do you understand? And then they start grabbing it and choking it.
It was probably one of the most hyped episodes of the year so far. It was a really good... EastEnders episode. And if you somehow are watching this and haven't seen it, fucking seek out that scene. As it's an exciting time in the show. But let's move forward on. Another character is old Aunt Babe. Mostly known for her... She was like a scheming, like, older character in the Carters. She played a big role in the storyline where Abby was with Ben Mitchell, and she manipulated Ben into thinking like she'd lost the baby, and like gave him some weird sense of obligation despite the fact that he's not straight. But was a big schemer and quite a diabolical character. Do you have any memories of Babe Smith?
No, I don't think I do.
Well,
I think I'm confusing her for the Hayley Slater that used to bully Ben Mitchell.
Yeah, that's Stella. Yeah. Well, she's dead.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, they shared similar characteristics. They both abused people.
Is she dead?
What, Stella?
Because no one is truly... Yeah, because no one's truly dead.
Nah, we saw her dead.
Yes, but we also saw Ronnie and Roxy dead. So, don't be two-faced with me, you bitch. Okay?
Yeah. But,
We can't bring Stella back because we saw her die. But I want to bring back Roxy and Ronnie. I know we saw them die and drown. But it's my day, so shut up, Piggy. I don't care what you think. Meh. Fucking loser.
But yeah, she also abused Sylvie, her sister, who was she was dying. She had some like condition where she could barely function by herself. She tried to send her into a road with oncoming traffic. For Christ's sake, she tried to leave her outside. She would just treat her like absolute shit because obviously she was with Stan, who was Mick's granddad. And she left in pretty bad circumstances. They finally cottoned on to the fact that she was quite evil, and Mick sent her out and is like, you'll pay. One interesting theory that our friends at Talking Walford suggested is that obviously Mick Carter, lost at sea, was found by one of like Babe's like fisherman friends, because obviously she's in Kent and that's like around the coast. I think Margate was... maybe not Margate, I don't remember. But regardless. And obviously she would kind of like... She had a caravan out there. And it's the idea that she would be fixated on like trying to make him recover, but trying to make her like love him. Or trying to make him love her type deal. And like kind of coerce him into believing like, oh, your family's dead. You know, I'm the only family you need. And it sounds very in character for her. But with all that said, let's move on to the next character. Probably quite controversial, but the character, I say the character, not the actress, Hayley Slater. Now, Biggie, I know you have some things to say about Hayley Slater as a character. So I'm going to let you get them all out in this public forum.
Love Hayley Slater. She is one of my favourite characters. She is. Had a huge hard-on for her when I was younger. She's on my list of characters I want to bring back. We're doing my list after Ash's list, because my list, I'm currently making it up in my mind as he talks, shout. I want Hayley Slater back. I don't want the actress back. You can fuck off and die in a car crash, but I'll gladly take the character back.
Yeah.
Like, it's that kind of thing where you want the character back, but you don't want the actress. It's like when you get food, but you only want the chicken balls and not the chips. But they're like, you have to have the chips. We want Hayley Slater, but we don't want the actress. You can just fuck off. We don't want you. You leave. We'll all spit on you as you leave. You just leave.
Exactly.
And then she's like, no, but I have to come back. And you're like, no, do you not understand? I just want the chicken balls. I don't want the chips. And she's like, I have to come back. And you're like, no, I just want the character. Leave, please. As you have a breakdown. And she's like, fuck you, I made the character. And I'm like, I don't care if you made the character, love. I just want your character back. You can piss off. And then finally we get her away and she comes back with her child. But yeah, she's on my list. I have a few more of Slaters on my list. I will mention when we come to my list. So yeah, bring her back, please.
Yeah, and I'd say
Not the actress.
Yeah, obviously obviously the actress was brought in, like, essentially I'm pretty sure, like, John York saw, like, her, like, having an argument on, like, a subway or something. They went, fuck it, you're a Slater. And this kind of showed the choice. One of the more, like, trashier Slaters at the core, you know. And I wasn't really the biggest friend of the Slater family, but they invited her in, and she had a fairly poignant relationship with Jean, who was trying to, like, get her through her pregnancy. She was struggling a lot, and there was this really good dynamic between the two. It was one of the storylines that actually tipped me off to liking Jean. But, you know, at the end of the day, the actress had possibly one of my least favourite Christmas episodes, and involved one of my least favourite iterations of the character, as Alfie Slater is not Alfie Slater. Alfie Moon is the parent to Hayley's child, and yeah, this ain't good. As she's pushed down the stairs, he hits his head on, like, a log at the bottom or something. It's a really contrived Christmas episode.
One of the worst. Like, my problem with that era of Alfie Moon, because people who watch the podcast, you know, my favourite characters are Reese, Alfie,
Ricky Butcher.
No, Danny Dyer. Danny Dyer can piss off. Ricky. Just the way they made Alfie Moon, because to me Alfie Moon is like a cool uncle you have. Yes, may he wank off in a bush, yes, but he's that uncle that allows you to drink at 16 instead of 18. But the way they used him in 2018 was like he was this evil man who fucking hated women, he hated children, he just was a horrible man.
For context, he was selling people who weren't dead yet fake funerals and conning them out of money. Like, Alfie's always been a bit of, like, that kind of cheeky chappy will kind of scam you out of something happily, but in this iteration he was just a terrible person.
Which is why I'm glad they retconned that.
Yeah.
Well, excluding, not retcon it, but whatever the word is, they basically went, yeah, that happened, but you're back to happy Alfie Moon. Life couldn't be greater. You're like, yes, thank Christ. And Hayley Slater, I'd love to see back. Just bring back the character. I don't care who plays her.
Yeah.
As long as they're not a cunt like the actress. I'm not even going to name the actress because I don't know the actress. That's how much I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of, like, vulnerability within the character. That there was a lot of, like, pain and, like, just a terrible upbringing. Just dealt her with some, like, awful cards. But it would still be fun to see Hayley come back. I'm pretty sure Cherry's still technically on the show. Like, just Cat takes care of her now or something. Or at least I think that's what happened, because... Oh, no. Cherry left the square. Yeah, it would be fun to see Hayley Slater rock up. Let's say Cat and Alfie are on good terms, and then... You know, because it does feel like Cat and Alfie may eventually get back together. And then Hayley Slater comes back in and says... Well, how about you start taking care of your fucking kid?